how do you square that experience of recognition of our common humanity? Even, you and I, as different as we are, can recognize ourselves in the words of Socrates and Plato's dialogues. In an age when we want to emphasize the difference and the particularity and the otherness and the peculiarity of the identity of the individual, which I'm guessing is a huge part of your graduate training in sociology, as it was for me in religious studies, are these things totally at odds with each other, common humanity and identity and particularity, or how have you been able to negotiate those in your own life and work as an educator?
Yes, that is the big question these days, in the sense that, perhaps we should focus more on, studying people who are like us. And what I would say is that I think it's a both and kind of thing, that I think having this grounding in these great questions and in great texts that have enduring power, I think is incredibly important for everyone. At the same time, I do think that it's very helpful to be able to converse across traditions and to see where they're in conversation with each other, and to have an ability to cross cultures and to cross understandings. Because even though there is much that binds us together as human beings, there are also many differences. And I think part of the problem of where we are now is that there has clearly been a privileging of Western and European content, ways of knowing, and so on. Mm-hmm. And, so quite naturally, those who have not been at that center are saying, well, where are our stories and where are our voices? And I think that's fine. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. But to me, it's a difference between saying, let's have a larger conversation versus let's, just kind of all go to our own houses and have our own separate conversations. And we're never going to, kind of come together. Now, that said, I do think it's very important to say that, when some of the kind of more ethnic studies began to emerge in the 60s and 70s, like African American studies, I think that was incredibly important and necessary, because now we have recovered so many voices that were not considered to be important, that were pushed to the side. That scholarship is incredibly necessary and important. And so in that sense, sometimes we do need to maybe go home and kind of understand our own traditions better, and then come back out to be in conversation with others. So I don't think it's a thing where it's one or the other. My concern is that the push seems to be, you only stay home with your people, and that's fine. I think that we do need the sustenance and support and the traditions from which we come, and we need to study them and take them seriously. But we also need to be in this larger conversation. Now, on the other hand, I would say that mainstream conversation that's been happening within the United States and the larger Western world, that has been mainly European and Europeanized, also needs to take our voices seriously. That is to say, it's not a matter of just, people of color will become kind of bicultural, but, those who have been in the mainstream will just stay the way they are and not hear anyone else. I think there has to be a kind of give and take where, so if we're doing classical education, I don't think that should mean that we don't read people who are non-white or non-European. I think there are ways to bring that in to the larger conversation. Those voices also need to be part of classical and canonical teaching.